welcome here to Bedford. Nick and Ask the Steve Beals with you. It's FNL Rewind presented by Beals Insurance. Over the next hour, 3 head coaches will join us. We'll recap the entire quarterfinal round, which took place this weekend, set the stage for the semifinals coming your way this weekend as well. I'm Nick and Ask this with Steve Beals. In about 15 minutes or so, Nashua North head coach Dante Lorendi will join us. No problem for the Titans over Merrimack in the quarterfinal round. Zach Matthews of Bedford will join us at the bottom of the hour. The Bulldogs fought valiantly this season but bowed out back on Saturday against Goffstown. We'll review the season with Coach Matthews and then wrap up the show at 5:45 with Goffstown's Nick Hammond. Of course, the Grizzlies were the ones who ended Bedford's season. We begin, though, Steve, with a recap. We were in action again, 2 broadcasts over the weekend, beginning Friday night at Stello Stadium in Nashua, where Nashua North took the field, and boy, they wasted little time building up a lead on Merrimack. In fact, 3 touchdowns on the first 3 drives for the Titans, put them up ahead 21-0 very comfortably, just 6 minutes or so into that game, and then the onslaught just would not let up. It was a 28-0 halftime lead for the Titans, and that was it for starting quarterback Curtis Harris Lopez. The senior had 10 carries in that first half, 148 yards, and 4 touchdowns. After that, his night was over. North, though, continued to add to the lead before it was all said and done, 42-12. The Titans, again, widely recognized as the best team, although we'll find out for sure, obviously, 2 weeks from now, once it's all said and done. But right now, North as good as anybody. Coach Lorendi coming on again in about 10 minutes or so. But your instant takeaway, Steve, was undoubtedly a dominant Titan performance Friday night.
No question. You know, great offenses win games, great defenses win championships. I think the thing about Nashua North that really showed me why everybody rates them number one is, you know, there's many reasons, of course, but when you have a tremendous pass rush, containing pass rush, when you can run the complexity of the packages that they run on blitzes and things of that nature, and on top of that have a lockdown secondary on the receiver package, I mean, you're going to make that team have a lot of 3 and outs. Problem is once you get the 3 and outs with them, Nick, now you got to deal with Espanol and Harris running the ball with a tremendous offensive line. This team is just tremendous. They're extremely strong and they're extremely wide in talent, and we got a display the other night. One of the things I noticed was, you know, when you look at, which I know you'll talk about later, the Londonderry-Salem game, clearly to play that level to that end of the game with Londonderry against Salem, it shows that when the Titans played Londonderry and defeated him that well in the second half, now you know Londonderry is a strong team by how close they came with Salem, Nick. This is the real deal here. It's going to be a great game next week.
Yeah, really, you mentioned it's Salem able to hold on over the Lancers in the quarterfinals and come away with a 21-13 victory. Londonderry had a chance to even it up. Their leading rusher on the day was denied at the 2-yard line as Matthew Perrone, nearly 100 yards in this one, 94 yards, pressed into duty, but again stopped short at about the 2 as the game ended. Londonderry, though, really shot themselves in the foot. 5 turnovers in this one. Coach Lozon after the game says you can't do that and reasonably expect to win. They did contain Fernandez in this one. McDonald, the other big gun for Salem, though, did break along one, a 68-yard touchdown run. The senior finished with 123 yards on the ground for the Blue Devils. So, again, the final, Salem 21, Londonderry 13. North and Salem will duke it out Saturday at 1 o'clock at Stello Stadium. And guess what? We will be there. That's Friday Night Lights, New Hampshire's game of the week for this Saturday. It's the Division I semifinal matchup between Nashua North and Salem. On the other side of the bracket, Goffstown hosting Bedford. And this one had a defensive feel, Steve, through 2 quarters. 7-7 was the score at halftime. Bedford, who was widely seen as the underdog, did what they needed to do through those first 2 quarters. A lot of individual plays on defense. They won the time of possession battle, it seemed, through the first 2 quarters. Yeah. And then in the second half, Goffstown does what Goffstown does, and that's basically play physical at the point of attack and wear down other teams. It seems like we saw that. Jared Hinault, the senior quarterback for Goffstown, scored 3 times on the ground in this one. He hooked up with a receiver through the air as well. A pick six really put the cherry on the sundae at the end of the game. 35-7, the final score. Goffstown wins the second half 28-0, ends Bedford's season. Grizz are still unbeaten and will host Winnicott, who advanced to the semifinals by virtue of default. They got a forfeit victory after Exeter bowed out due to the COVID-19 situation. So, again, it will be Winnicott at Goffstown in the D1 semis Saturday at 1. The Grizzlies widely seen as the favorite there.
No question. You go back to the first half of that game, you're absolutely right, Nick. It was a very, very tight defensive game. I think that Coach Matthews did a great job with play calling in the first half. He saw and exposed. It was almost like the fourth quarter, at the end of the third quarter, excuse me, of the Memorial game with this heavy flow, driving the defense towards Sanchez, and then running Irwin on the backside, just continued into the Goffstown game. It was almost like they walked off the field and Memorial went right on with the same success in that particular area. They ran that play so many times for so many yards, Irwin got, and it's so much respect everybody has for Sanchez. But I was over at halftime going down talking to our cameraman, Nick, while we were on halftime break, and I could hear the adjustments in the Grizzly tent being made on controlling the defensive end, making sure he maintained outside separation, as well as rolling up either the linebacker or the cornerback. Coach Hammond's defense and his defensive crew did a fantastic job shutting that play down. And once that happened, Michael ran out of they weren't able to move the sticks, and Goffstown was able to force Michael to throw, and that's when they began to get the turnovers and just change the whole nature of the game. And Goffstown was the typical Grizzlies we've seen all year long.
Yeah, again, we'll speak with Nick Hammond, first-year head coach for Goffstown, coming up at about 5:45. Okay, so we've got the Division I semifinals all set. North will play host to Salem on one side. Winnicott will travel to Goffstown on the other. Over the weekend, the D2 quarterfinals were rolling as well. And speaking of rolling, the Plymouth Bobcats, their defense, Steve, very, very, very good. And it was the defense that carried the day over a stubborn Kennett squad as well. 14-6 the finals. The Bobcats are back in the semifinals, and they'll face another very good offensive squad in Lebanon as the Raiders jumped out on the Bow Falcons 30-0.
Unbelievable.
In this one. And
that
Bow team is very explosive, as we know. The Falcons did get one late in the second half to make it respectable, but still a big win, 30-6. The final score. So Lebanon will take on Plymouth on one side of the D2 bracket. And on the other side, speaking of explosive, Souhegan put up 63 points in a win over the defending champion Hollis Brookline Cavaliers. Cavs scored as well, 34, so 97 combined points between the Cavs and the Sabres. But Souhegan, again, a clear winner in this one. They will host Timberlane, who was not in action over the weekend. Again, similar situation with St. Thomas. Unfortunately, the Saints have bowed out due to COVID-19. So Timberlane gets the forfeit bye into the semis. They will travel to Souhegan. So that's Timberlane at Souhegan in one Division II semifinal, with Plymouth hosting Lebanon on the other side.
Lebanon, it looks to me, if you look at the score differentials, I was able to look back on Division II, through the preceding season. You look at the score matchups against other programs, and this looks like it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be very tight. Obviously, never got a chance to really see. I saw a little bit of Plymouth on film. Be interested to see how that one turns out. But Souhegan, we did cover a game against BG in a cross-division matchup, and you could see they were explosive then. Coach Boquette's got those guys just rolling right now. They're so versatile. They have two outstanding receivers that are getting better every single week. Got the height advantage, I think, over Hollis Brookline. I saw Hollis Brookline play Milford, and their corners aren't tall. My guess is, I haven't seen the internal box score of those games of the stats and stuff, but I'll bet you that they with a score like 63, they hit those tall receivers very often.
Yeah, as we know, very aggressive Souhegan with Coach Bellevue in charge of the play calling. He's
been there, done that,
and he'll go for the jugular more often than not. Of course, Robin Boquette, the head coach there, giving Coach Bellevue a little bit of a green light, but they've been putting up some eye-popping numbers all season long, but this one, 63 points, really caught my attention for sure. So
that's a lot of points for high school. It's no matter how.
For any level.
Yeah, any level, yeah.
Timberlane, of course, they're used to D1 competition. They're back in Division II, which seems like a good spot.
Good fit for them.
For them. They're in the semifinals, but they'll be looked at as the underdog against Sauhegan. And then, of course, Plymouth and Lebanon on the other side. That one, really a contrast of styles.
It is. It's going to be fun to watch.
It will be. Plymouth, the perennial contender in Division II, and now Sauhegan. It looks like those two are on a collision course, but not so fast, of course, as Lebanon and Timberlane.
And it looks like Saturday the weather is going to be pretty good. I don't know about that far up in the North Country, but certainly regionally it looks good. Let's assume it is. I think that really helps Lebanon in that game because the Bobcats can play. The Bobcats can play in a blizzard or a hurricane, and they're going to be stronger than most spread teams. So,
well, I think in either division, 1 or 2, one could make a case really for all 4 remaining teams.
Really
and that goes back to what we talked about really at the beginning of the season. We've talked about it all season long, the parity that we've seen this year, especially in this bizarre COVID-19 year with the truncated schedules and everything else. It really is wide open. We have our favorites. We know who we like on paper, but really any one of these 4 teams are there for a reason, and that's why you have to play the games to find out exactly who is who and what is what. But I would not be surprised if Lebanon, Timberlane, any of these teams we're talking about, Winnicott even came up with a game plan that kept them in the game, and then who knows, we've seen a lot of strange things happen in fourth quarters over the years.
Yeah, the balance that Sauhegan and Nashua North have on key elements of championship caliber teams, at least to date, seems to me to be a little bit of ahead of the rest of the teams. But not enough ahead where there isn't going to be a solid game played. And I think the other element is the teams that you describe are all very well coached, and that can create championships as well.
Our broadcast today, as it usually is brought to you by Beals Insurance. Locations now in both Bedford and Londonderry. Whether you need home, auto, or business insurance, Beals Insurance will get you both the price and quality coverage that's right for you. So call Steve at 603-471-9999 or visit BealsInsurance.com. All right, later in the show, Zach Matthews of Bedford, Nick Hammond of Goffstown, and on the other side, in just a moment, Dante Lorendi of Nashua North. We'll see if Coach reveals any of the game plan as his squad gets ready for Salem in the semis. Don't go away. Back in a moment. You're watching Friday Night Lights New Hampshire right here on FNLNH Media, presented by Beals Insurance. Back here on FNL Rewind, you can catch the show live every Monday at 5 Eastern on our YouTube channel, FNLNH Media. That stands for Friday Night Lights New Hampshire. Again, FNLNH Media, and please hit the subscribe button. All right, we've got Zach Matthews of Bedford coming up in about 10 or so minutes. Nick Hammond on the way at 5:45 Eastern of Goffstown. But right now on the line is the coach of Nashua North, Dante Lorendi, back on the show, and we welcome him aboard. Coach, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me back, guys.
We appreciate it. Very, very impressive, that 42-12 win over Merrimack. Your team came out and was lights out right away. You forced a turnover on the opening series defensively and then scored 3 touchdowns on your opening 3 possessions. Were you in tune with just how in tune your club was? I mean, did you have a feeling at game time that your guys were ready to go, or were you surprised on how quickly you established a big lead in this one?
No, actually, pregame, I thought we were a little flat.
Wow.
So I guess it's my good judgment. But, yeah, I said to one of the other coaches, I said, and I don't know if we were flat or we were just quiet and focused. But so apparently, things worked out. So I guess we were focused. I knew the kids, all week. We had a pretty good week of practice. There was really good focus there, especially for this time of the year. And, like you said, we were able to get a turnover on the first series that helped change momentum. So anytime you could start like that, it's a good thing.
Coach, your guys, you mentioned business-like. That's the word I would use. You got a lot of seniors, a lot of guys with varsity playing experience. Is this confidence we're seeing maybe with this group, this kind of business-like approach to the game, you think? Or maybe this is just one of the less animated groups you've had in the past. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's. I think there's definitely a focus there, which is good because it's not easy in the time of remote learning where the kids are out of a routine that you're so used to, where you're in school all day and then you go to practice, and now guys are showing up. We don't get to see them all day, and they're not with each other all day, so it's kind of weird. So I don't know if it's just kind of a focus because, hey, we get to do the fun stuff now and kind of escape all the stuff that has not been routine and sitting in front of their computers in class all day. So maybe that has something to do with it, or they understand how important these past few weeks have been.
And I'd imagine that would present a whole different number of challenges for you and your staff, right? It makes it, I'd imagine, a little more difficult to keep your thumb on the pulse of your team, so to speak, or no?
Yeah. It's like I said, when you're in school, you can kind of walk around, you see the kids during the day in the hallways and the cafeteria. So, it's easier to be in contact as far as just keeping in touch with other teachers and finding out how, guys are doing in class and if they're doing the things that they need to be doing. Whereas, here, as I said, it's weird not to see them and just to, kind of have them being home on a computer all day, not interacting, and then show up. It's, a little harder to knock the rust off, I guess. But obviously better now since we're so far into the season, thankfully, and, that has become the routine. So, we're just getting used to it.
Coach Steve Beals here. Thanks again, as Nick said, for coming on. As always, definitely saw a happy squad of coaches there. We tend to park right next to where your coach's corner is there. So, if I had a camera and a mic, I would have come right over there and interviewed all 5 of or 6 of you. But anyway, congratulations on a very solid win against a very well-coached Kip Jackson team. They were able to, I think their big game was obviously South. I think they knew when they came in that they were going to be facing, the number 1 rated team, and you guys played like it. So congratulations for that. Question I had is, we could sit here and talk about Curtis Harris, about all of his, physical attributes as far as what he contributes in the team for his, God-given talent. The thing that I noticed, and I wanted to ask you about the other day, as I watched this, man, a lot of these other kids look up to this guy. I could see him walking over to a lot of the younger fellas and the guys that may not necessarily be starters or whatever, walking over to Curtis and Max, and these guys treat these guys as much a part of the team as their fellow starters. And to me, that's one of the things I noticed, especially against Merrimack, was as Nick, I think, said, that calm, business-like, cool attitude. But it's even more than that. There's a friendly attitude amongst those guys, and I'm watching them develop into really good people and good leaders. Your comments on that? That's what I could see the other night.
Yeah, I think, the thing what you mentioned, Curtis and Max, and I think with those guys is that they played varsity since they've been freshmen, especially Curtis. I think started from game 1, and then Max was pulled up right in the middle of the year. So I think they get, that feeling of understanding what it is to be a youngster on a varsity squad.
Yeah.
And kind of that, even though you're playing and you're part of it, the guys you played with the last few years and went to school with aren't there for you. They're practicing on the freshman level, so I think they kind of get that concept of, trying to, and we're fortunate enough to have guys that kind of embrace them and brought them up. And I think they're just trying to mirror that and doing a good job. And, we always talk about, it's not a year-to-year thing. When you look at the great programs in the state, we try not to have – you don't talk about just that one class,
Right.
class. When you talk about the Exeters and the Pinkertons and some of the great programs around here that all these other great coaches are building is it's a program. And collectively, that's what it is. It's you want to have that program, that family type of atmosphere, the family that we're all in this together type of thing. And, our kids have been doing a good job with that.
Yeah, your leaders certainly have, and you can see that everybody feels part of this team's journey this year. And, given all the circumstances surrounding the football, I think that's just a great thing to see. And it says a lot from your coaching staff that that they've molded these guys with the right attitude on the field. Looking forward to next week, Salem. Salem, was 21-13, but it was pretty close, right down to the wire. and Londonderry gave up the football a lot. Coach Lozon even said that, you just can't give that many turnovers. So they're obviously Salem, to beat a team like Londonderry is a solid team, specifically Fernandez and McDonald. Can you tell us, well, obviously not give up your game plan, but you must be really zoned in on these guys. How do you think your team matches up against them?
Yeah, I think the best thing to say about them, and I mean this as a tremendous compliment, and just what we were talking about excellent programs year in and year out, is when you watch them, they are Salem. They are exactly what you expect a Salem team to be. They're tough. They're physical. They make you earn everything defensively. Offensively, they have weapons. They can grind it. They can pop the big one. And it's like watching Salem, whether it be Coach Pike or Coach Gaddy, or there is a tremendous tradition there. And I've always said it is they love playing for each other and playing together, and you can see that. And it's there's just this attitude, and they're playing confident. We definitely have our work cut out for us.
How do you stop Fernandez and McDonald?
Good question.
Curtis Harris? Espanol?
I don't know. Yeah.
Come on, you got to give me something here.
Saturday goes.
Come on.
We have to get to the football, obviously, because those guys can take it to the distance, and not only we've been doing a pretty good job with it all year. We need to continue it, but we also know these are guys that you can't miss tackles. We have to, when we get there, we have to wrap up, and we have to not give them second chances and make them bounce or break things.
Well, Nick, as good coaches do, he's given us nothing, and I don't blame him a bit for it. But Coach, I'll give it back to Nick. Thank you so much for coming on, and we're just really excited to bring that game to our subscribers and our base next week. And best of luck to you. I think a lot of you and Steve Abraham, and either one of you guys, both of you guys deserve a lot of credit. It's not easy for Steve to come in as a first-year head coach and be going to the semifinals. So a lot of credit goes out to both of you guys. I know we're going to get a good game. So best of luck to you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate what you guys do for us.
Yeah, no question about it. Thank you, Coach. We appreciate it. Good luck. We'll see you on Saturday. Thanks again.
Take care.
Thank you. That's Dante Lorendi of Nashua North. That game is at He
Belichicked us, Nick.
Well, we expected that.
Yeah, he Belichicked us.
We'll be on the scene Saturday for the D1 semi between Salem and Nashua North. Kickoff comes your way at 1. Our coverage live begins a few minutes before that. All right, Zach Matthews of Bedford on the other side. We'll speak with Nick Hammond later on, as well as FNL Rewind rolls on. You are watching Friday Night Lights New Hampshire, presented by Beals Insurance. FNL Rewind is brought to you by Beals Insurance, locations in both Bedford and Londonderry. Whether you need home, auto, or business insurance, Beals Insurance will get you both the price and quality coverage that's right for you. So call Steve at 603-471-9999. We appreciate Dante Lorendi of Nashua North jumping on with us a moment ago. Nick Hammond of Goffstown comes your way in about 15 minutes. But right now, second-year head coach Zach Matthews of the Bedford Bulldogs joining us on the phone. Coach, good evening. Thanks for coming on. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on. Pleasure to come on and talk with you guys. I always like talking some football.
Yeah, we appreciate it for sure. Years from now, when you look back on this season of 2020 with the COVID-19 situation, the shortened season, the bizarre schedule, etc., how do you think you'll describe it, looking back, now that you've had a couple days with the season now in the rearview mirror? But what words, what language jumps out in your mind about this year as a whole?
I think the biggest thing I'm appreciative for is the fact that, people in the state, our state organization, our athletic directors, everybody involved gave us an opportunity. I mean, I feel bad for kids in Maine and Massachusetts. In the state of New Hampshire, the thing I'm proud of is that our kids were given the opportunity to, do what they love to do. And unfortunately, there's a lot of kids, obviously, in other states that are nearby that weren't given that opportunity. And I think that, everybody involved in the decision-making process and everybody involved in making the season as safe and as successful for the kids as possible. So I think there's a lot more that went into this year that a lot of people kind of, don't realize. I think it was a lot. It was a lot for athletic directors. It was a lot for coaches. And I think just the fact that we were able to provide our kids with somewhat of a normal experience is the biggest thing I'll take away.
Yeah. Well, Steve and I have talked with pretty much every coach, at least at D1 at this point, around the state about this process and really how it began way back in March and kind of stretched over the summer. A lot of uncertainty hung over the heads of everybody. Do you think this process brought you and your staff and your team closer in ways, or was this kind of a difficult thing to navigate in terms of keeping everybody on the same page and keeping that tight-knit group intact? Was it more challenging in that regards, or was this maybe ironically something that brought everybody closer together? What do you think?
I think it's both of those things, to be honest. I think initially when we were first presented with it, it was something that was tough, and we were taken out of the weight room, and kids were, put in situations they aren't accustomed to. And then as coaches, we had to figure it out. We had to figure out using Zoom and kind of ways to get together with our kids without actually getting together with our kids and trying to maximize time. So I think, initially it was extremely difficult, and we were all kind of divided apart. And then I think, there's some things that might hold around from the way that we did things kind of this season. Some of the ways we ran meetings, some of the ways that we were able to meet with our kids, obviously using technology, and we just weren't allowed to get together in big groups. And so we had to find other ways to do it. And so I think that I think our kids were really great as far as just kind of adapting to the situation, and it is what it is. Initially it was like, this isn't what it's usually like, but I think our kids and our coaches did a really good job of saying, all right, this isn't what it usually is, but we're going to make it the best we possibly can. And I think everybody did a good job of that.
You and your staff now have been in place for 2 seasons now officially, Coach. How do you like it? How do you like Bedford High? How do you like working for Corey Parker? Do you think you've settled in at this point? Is this now comfortably called home for you? I mean, where are you personally in terms of, I guess, settling down as the head coach of the Bedford Bulldogs?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously all the other conversations aside, the things we talked about beforehand made this season a little bit different. But I think the first year, anytime you're in a program, no matter if it's a successful program, like the program at Bedford, or if it's someplace where you're trying to rebuild, I think, that first year is tough because you're trying to bridge the gap. You're kind of stepping into somebody else's culture that they've created, and then you're trying to kind of create your own culture. And it doesn't mean that one way is right or wrong. It just means that every coach is a little bit different in how they do things. And so I think that first year is a little bit of a culture shock, and it doesn't matter how hard you try as a staff to make it, seamless. It's very difficult unless it's somebody that was, absolutely on the staff the year before. I think it's difficult to make it seamless. I think year 2, all the COVID stuff aside, I think you're just more comfortable in the working relationship with all the coaches on your staff. I think you're more comfortable with knowing what your players, can and can't do. And so I think definitely, this year was a big step forward as far as that's concerned. And, we're already looking forward to next year as far as what we have coming back and the type of kids we have at Bedford High School. I can't say enough about the group of kids we have and the fact that, they're always looking for an opportunity to get better. And if we're going to put something on the table, they're going to try to get it done.
Coach, just a joy here listening to you speak, but I want to get on these things. I think you're just nailing it as far as where your team is right now and where they're headed. First of all, I'll just say, from an accolade standpoint, you could just see your guys gave everything they had in that second half. I watched guys taking double teams. Number 77, I apologize, I don't have
Magnus Steele.
Magnus Steele. I apologize, I didn't remember his name. I didn't forget him, trust me. I watched that kid battle Capos and Belanger and take on 600, 700 pounds of drive. He gave everything he can. I don't know if you've watched the film yet. I'm sure you have. Just send my regards to that young man. He was impressive of what he was attempting to do right to the end. But want to get right back down into the weeds, if you will, of football. What I saw was you guys in the second half, midway through the third quarter Memorial game, really get the running game with Sanchez with a backside counter to Irwin, and it just never stopped all the way through the whole first half of that game. You were ripping off big yardage. I thought your play calling of your offensive squad coach was outstanding, in the sequencing and the way that they attacked Goffstown kind of caught them a little bit confused, and And I was surprised on the other end that they didn't go to Hinault with more running soon. You go into the half 7-7, and then all of a sudden you come out and Irwin was shut down. Looked like they did some adjustments there. And what kind of happened there? Did you feel that play or that sequence of plays with Irwin on the backside was shutting down? And what was your thought process at that point of how to do something else to continue the progress that you had in the first half?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's no doubt that Goffstown, with their size up front, and you already mentioned the kids, so I'm not going to go back into it, but,
Sure.
you know, that group of kids they have on the offensive and defensive line, never mind the fact of the experience. I mean, I think
Yes.
that group of kids, they return, 10 starters, but then you take into account the size of those kids. And so, we made it very clear to our kids on the offensive and defensive side of the ball that it was going to be a battle at the line of scrimmage. And
Right.
specifically as far as the defense was concerned, we were trying to do some things with our undersized kids to put those guys, in tough situations. And I think in the first half, obviously, a lot of those things defensively worked well. And, as the game goes on and you got those guys who are whatever they are, 275, 300 pounds,
Yep.
Some big boys wearing on you. And like you said, I think that daunting task of taking on some of those double teams and trying to hold your ground against those big boys, I think, defensively that wore on us. And I think the same thing, a little bit up front on offense, whereas I was really pleased with how we ran the ball in the first half. And,
tremendous. Yeah.
Kind of the thought process behind that for me was I know their offense is explosive, and I figured the more we could possess the ball, the more we could keep that offense off the field.
Definitely.
That's going to help us kind of stay in the ball game. And then obviously as the game goes on a little bit, Goffstown does a nice job and they battle back, and some of their big boys are making it tougher for us to move them out of there. And like you said, the run game got a little more difficult for us to get a hold of. And, so the whole thing kind of snowballed a little bit in the second half. But, I was definitely pleased with the effort. I just think
I would be. Yep.
I just think that one of those deals is up front, that what that Goffstown team has as far as those athletes up front, they just, they put you in such a tough position also because of the athletes up front, but then you got the quarterback who's such a good runner and such a physical specimen that they can spread you out with those receivers. And obviously you have to put guys out there because they can make plays on the edge. And then you're left thin in the box with a quarterback who's 215 and 220, and he can just kind of keep it himself and run it downhill at you. So, you're kind of in a tough spot there on either regard. If you empty the box out, now all of a sudden you got the big quarterback and the big O-line that's coming downhill at you.
Right.
And then again, if you load the box, he's a good enough athlete that they're going to make plays in the secondary. So, I mean, I think those problems are going to continue to be presented for the rest of the people that they play. I mean,
I agree.
When a Connett's going to have their hands full, and we'll see what happens from there.
One of the things as far as Michael is concerned, I watched this. I've been watching him since last year. I've been very positive. Nick and I talked about it as a sophomore. I thought he showed a lot of poise. Really liked him as a person on the field, and really looks at you for direction and looks at your staff for direction. Just seems to be a consummate learner. And but one of the things that was interesting, his mechanics right from the start of the game were right on. His footwork was excellent. The way he was throwing the ball was outstanding. What I saw was the offensive line just struggled too much to try, and the pocket began to close down the second half. He wasn't really able to get comfortable like he was in the first time when he had to throw a play action or throw a pass in general. But this young man you got coming back next year, and if that offensive line gets bigger, faster, and stronger, you must be positive and optimistic about, having a quarterback with this much varsity experience behind him coming back next year.
Well, and that's the thing that, in speaking with Joe after the game, obviously, on Saturday, all your kids are upset and disappointed with the way the season ended. And we tried to just focus on the growth and the development, of that group of kids. And specifically to Joe, obviously that last game didn't end the way he wanted it to, but you talk about the things that he's done for us and the ability for when people load the box on us to make some of those plays in the passing game. He works hard at what he does, and pretty much throughout that whole pandemic, as coaches, we weren't allowed to work with him. And so, he's working with other people and getting together receivers on his own. And, I can't say enough about his work ethic. And I know, the type of kid that he is throughout this next off season, coming into his senior year with 2 seasons under his belt, kind of learning experiences, we're expecting big things.
Well, I'll leave you with the fact that when I didn't see anybody giving up in that game, and obviously into the last minute when it was basically need time, nobody gave up, and some of these guys faced, like you were talking about, some real big seniors, and just an offensive line and a defensive line that high school doesn't see every single year. So congratulations to you on your squad, and I look forward to watching Michael next year, because just let him know that we think he's been a joy to watch. So best of luck to you. Appreciate you.
No, thank you very much.
Another thing, a lot of coaches that that lose that last game don't like coming on the media. It just shows the kind of class act you are for doing it. So we appreciate it very, very much.
Well, I think that anytime you get people giving, our programs and the sport that we love the attention,
yep.
It's great to talk about the game. And I think that it's easy to talk about games that you win, but I think as coaches, and this, but we're just as proud of our kids when we lose the game. It might be difficult, obviously, walking away, but we're proud of the effort our kids gave. So appreciate you guys having me on.
No question.
Glad to have you.
Thank you, Coach. We appreciate it, and good luck next season for sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's, again, head coach Zach Matthews, now 2 years
impressive
on the job as the Bedford Bulldog.
Knows where his team's at. You can see, after talking to Coach Matthews, you can see why the players towards the end of the game recognized they fought hard. But the sportsmanship I saw between them and Goffstown, two big rivals. I talked to it with my sons on the way home about it, that these guys, they win well. They lose given everything they had, but they lose well as far as sportsmanship is concerned, and that was evident on the field.
Yep. Bedford, 3 wins during that regular season, a postseason victory over Memorial, but they bow out in the quarterfinals to Goffstown. Speaking of Goffstown, Nick Hammond, the first-year head coach, is on the other side. Grizzlies will host Winnicott with a chance to punch their ticket to the championship. What is Coach doing this week to get ready? We'll find out on FNL Rewind in just a moment. You're watching Friday Night Lights New Hampshire, presented by Beals Insurance. Back here on FNL Rewind, you can hear the show every Monday live at 5 Eastern. You can watch the archives as well. If you don't catch it live, they're all available on our YouTube channel. Friday Night Lights New Hampshire, FNLNH Media on YouTube. That's the YouTube channel, FNLNH Media. That stands, of course, for Friday Night Lights New Hampshire. It's all brought to you by Beals Insurance. I'm Nick Anastas with Steve Beals. We thank Coach Lorendi of Nashua North for joining us earlier. Same thing with Coach Matthews of Bedford. And we close down the show now with Goffstown Grizzly head man Nick Hammond. Coach, welcome back into the show. We appreciate the time. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well, guys. How about yourselves?
We are good. Impressive, especially the second half. That 35-7 win over Bedford, really kind of a coming out for your team as you smashed the Bedford Bulldogs, one of your rivals. Little bit of run, little bit of pass in that second half. Your quarterback did a little bit of everything, as I'm sure you're accustomed to seeing at this point. How would you grade your senior quarterback, Jared Hunault, and his performance in that 35-7 win over Bedford?
I thought Jared did some really good things for us, as he has done for us all year. Decision-making continues to be one of his strong suits, and he's just executing everything we're asking him to do at a pretty high level.
Yeah. You mentioned last time we spoke a couple of weeks ago that Jared had put on, nearly 25 pounds or so of muscle in the offseason. You think that's starting to pay off here, Coach, as he lowers that shoulder and picks up some of those hard-earned yards?
Yeah, he does a really good job of just getting downhill in the run game, and he's obviously a very big kid and is tough to tackle.
What's he like personality-wise, Coach? Is he one of those vocal leaders, or is he kind of the Gary Cooper type that just leads by example?
He does whatever's necessary. He's vocal when he needs to be. He's quiet and listens when he needs to. Leads by example. He's just a tremendous kid.
Is there a vocal leader in that group, Coach? If you had to pinpoint one guy?
I think all of our captains do a great job leading the team. Really, all of our seniors, just in general.
O-line as well. They seem to pave the way and really open up some holes in that second half. And it looked like you had a guy who was playing hurt as well, Coach. Antonio Capos, really a two-way starter up front for you. Looked like he was playing on a bum ankle for most of that game. I mean, what can you say about his effort?
Outstanding. Antonio is, a tremendous football player for us. on both sides of the ball.
Coach, I'm going to follow where Nick left off. I watched him, Capos, come off the field, Antonio come off the field, and look, you don't want to forget about Belanger. You don't want to forget about, is it Pierce? Right on down the line, Dalton and the whole crew deserves a lot of credit in that game. I think it was one of the major differences in the game on both sides of the trenches. But when Capos came back in, absolutely out of gas, reached down and he got that. He grabbed Michael by the shirt and was able to bring him down the backfield. That to me was the end of it for Bedford, because it just showed me that he and the team were not going to be denied. Any thoughts on this young man?
I think he's a very competitive young man.
He is.
He really wants to do his part to help this team win. And I think we're fortunate right now where we have 22 guys who want to do that for us.
They really do. So I'll get back on to Hanal just for a second. One of the things that I saw is he didn't seem to run the ball in the first quarter much, which I expected he was going to. And correct me if I'm wrong, did he come off the field and say, let me run it? Because all of a sudden he grabbed the ball with two hands, and I think he ran it 4 out of 5 times, Coach, and he was just decking people as he was running through the line. This guy's got a motor on him that's got some major league torque to it, and he's got a heart and a soul in him that just seemed to inspire the team and wake them up from how they played in the first quarter. And I looked down at you, which you're not hard to figure out where your mindset is, and I could see how pleased you were with his performance. Talk to us about that part of the game, to me, because it was a part of the game where you guys begin to take hold.
Really, it wasn't necessarily about getting him the football. It was about making good decisions in the run game,
right?
And putting the ball where it's supposed to go in those situations.
Yeah. What about in the second half? You guys were really, in the first half, it seemed like you were struggling a little bit, shutting down Irwin, and then all of a sudden, I could see the coaches over to the side there working. Looked like it was on trying to foil the success that Bedford had, and all of a sudden it pretty much was shut down the second half. What was going on there? Because to me, that was a big adjustment coming out in the second half.
It really wasn't much of an adjustment. It was just reminding the kids to trust their keys, hit their keys when they tell them to hit it. Yeah.
Boy, direct words, short answers. I like it, Coach, because you're giving me enough. Towards the end of the game, Coach, it looked to me like the offensive line and the defensive line just took over. And, looking forward into next week, what do you feel? What are the strengths of Winnacunnet, and what are the assets that you have that you need to play at the top level of the game?
Winnacunnet's a really good football team.
Yeah, we saw them.
Defensively, they fly around. There's always 11 guys to the football, and they got some really good players over there. Offensively, we haven't seen an offense like theirs all year. They do a tremendous job of just getting off the football. Mm-hmm. Quarterback does a really good job in the option game. Really tough to force him to make decisions. He does a good job.
Yeah. One of the things that looking at as far as the looking at that game, your defensive backfield has just been locked down this year, and it seemed I thought that Exeter played a great defensive backfield game against Dover, but you guys in Nashua North seem to have really solid cornerbacks. Talk to me a little bit about these guys, Perry and the rest of them that have just done a consistent job. We've seen you 3 times this year. Yeah. And they've never let you down.
Yeah, they're a really good group. They're all very intelligent. They understand what they need to do based on the number of receivers to their side. They play the ball well in the air, and they're really good tacklers.
Yeah, they seem to do well no matter what defense you call, whether it's a cover 2, whether it's towards the end there, they did a great job of backing up on Bedford at the end of the game when you had the game in hand, and I thought they let nobody behind them, and their reaction to the ball when the passes were thrown underneath was just exemplary.
Yeah.
So, hey, on that, I'll send it back to Nick. I wish you the best of luck. It really gave us an enjoyable game to watch, and your players and the personalities that they demonstrated in the field are really fun to watch. And the parents, I'm telling you, you got some fans over there. They were having a ball.
Yeah, we have a great group here in Goffstown. We're very happy about it.
Well, wish you best of luck next week, Coach, and thanks for coming on. I'll put it back to Nick.
Yeah, you stole my thunder from my final question for you, Coach, was how big of an advantage, even with COVID-19 and the restrictions on the crowd, but how big of an advantage is home field for you this weekend?
I think it's huge. I think Goffstown, in my opinion, is the number one football community in the state of New Hampshire. The support, whether it be at the school district level, families, obviously we can't have friends and students in this year, but just the overall community here in Goffstown is really behind this program, and it's one of the things that really drives us.
Well, Coach, as Steve said a moment ago, good luck against Winnicott on Saturday, and we appreciate the time tonight. Thank you.
Do.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
That again, Nick Hammond of Goffstown. He's got the Grizzlies now at 7-0. Counting the 2 playoff wins, they will again host Winnicott. They're widely seen as the favorite against the Warriors. And, well, I think we found New Hampshire's version of Bill Belichick. It's Nick Hammond, right? It's 2 or 3 words, 2 or 3 sentences, and next.
Well, you better have a
right?
lot of questions available because he's not going to mess around. He's going to answer them direct.
Tip his hand at all.
I don't feel shortchanged. It's just he just gets right to it, and
he doesn't want to give away any secrets.
No. Good coaches don't do that. That's why they're this far into the season. So I'm thrilled for him, and I'm thrilled for Steve Abraham as well, because when you take over from a guy like Rob Pike, and then you take over for Steve, and then
same thing with Matthews and Bedford.
Same thing with Matthews and Bedford, and the same thing. This sort of continuum with Huff bringing on Hammond, that's a lot of pressure on him. His animation down the side of the field, these guys feed off of. He feeds off of them. They got a lot of things going. I'll tell you. He says he's got to be ready for Winnicott, and I believe they will be. Winnicott's got to be ready for Goffstown too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Very well coached group.
Yep.
Under Coach Hammond for sure here, just his first season as the head coach. We thank Coach Hammond for coming on. Appreciate Zach Matthews taking time out with us, as well as Dante Lorendi. Quick programming note again, we'll be live in Nashua at Stello Stadium on Saturday, 1 o'clock kickoff between Nashua North and Salem in the Division I semifinals. We'll be broadcasting in conjunction with the NFHS once again. But most importantly, you can find us on our home on YouTube. That's FNLNH Media, short for Friday Night Lights New Hampshire. Again, FNLNH Media on YouTube. Please hit the subscribe button and tune in Saturday at 1 o'clock for what should be a heck of a game between Nashua North and Salem. Steve, your final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I wish they had the other game at 7 o'clock because I'd like to do both of them, to be honest with you. I wish that, or actually, no, with Lights in Goffstown. I have Goffstown at 1 and them at 7, but obviously they can't do that. Personnel's got to get on the field, but I'd love to be able to coach both. As far as I can see, you've still got these teams 1 and 2 in my mind. I think most people would agree, but I think especially Salem, watch out, because I think they're a very good football team. They're going to need some breaks against that great Nashua North team. But that's going to be a very exciting game to watch. I really would have loved to watch Winnicott play, which we're going to see that ultimately. But I think it's too bad because I think an Exeter Goffstown game would have been a great style situation. But unfortunately, we're not going to see that. But we're going to see a very, very solid Winnicott team take on Goffstown. I think with all things considered, Nick, with everybody putting all this extra work in, from coaches to parents to SAUs to NHIAA, thank God we've at least had football this year, and these kids will have that. I feel bad for the programs that had to cut it short.
Our broadcast tonight brought to you by Beals Insurance, locations in both Bedford and Londonderry. Whether you need home, auto, or business insurance, Beals Insurance will get you both the price and quality coverage that's right for you. Call Steve at 603-471-9999 or visit BealsInsurance.com. Again, thanks to coaches Lorendi, Matthews, and Hammond. And we'll see you, our viewing audience, Saturday at 1 o'clock. This has been FNL Rewind, presented by Beals Insurance. So long, folks.